My wife went to Europe for a month and left me with our 1-year-old daughter. When my wife finally came back, what my wife made her gasp. No, this can't be happening. So, here is the situation. I am a 32-year-old guy, and up until about a year ago, I thought I had the standard American dream. House in the suburbs, steady job in project management, a wife I loved, and a beautiful 1-year-old daughter. But apparently, the dream was suffocating my wife. She didn't tell me this in a conversation. She didn't suggest therapy. She didn't ask for a weekend off. She told me she needed space to find her identity again because being a mother was erasing her soul. Her solution? A month-long trip to Europe with her 2 single college friends who are still living that influencers-in-training lifestyle. I tried to be understanding at first. I really did. Postpartum depression is real. Burnout is real. I suggested we get a nanny for a few weeks, or she take a week to go to a spa nearby. But no, it had to be Europe. It had to be a month, and it had to be alone. She said if I didn't support this, I was part of the patriarchal problem suppressing her spirit. She booked the tickets using our joint savings without asking me first. $5,000 just for the flights and the initial hotels. When I saw the notification, my stomach dropped. But she gaslit me immediately. She said, "You can make more money, but I can't make more memories while I'm still young enough to enjoy them." So she left. She literally packed 3 suitcases full of outfits that looked more appropriate for a Fashion Week runway than a vacation, kissed our daughter on the head, briefly, like you'd kiss a distant relative, and got into an Uber. As she rolled down the window, she didn't say, "I love you," or "call me if something happens." She said, "Don't text me unless someone is dying. I need a total detox from the domestic energy." That was the moment the cracks started, but I was too busy holding a crying baby to notice how deep they went. The first week was a masterclass in misery. I work full-time, mostly remote, but I have mandatory in-office days. My wife had sworn up and down that her mother would help out. Spoiler alert, that was a lie. When I called my mother-in-law on day 3, desperate because I had a board meeting and the baby was screaming, she was in Florida. My wife had told her that I insisted on doing this month solo to bond with the baby and prove I was a super dad. So not only was I abandoned, but I was also being framed as a hero who didn't need help, which meant asking for it made me look incompetent. I didn't sleep more than 3 hours a stretch. My work performance tanked. I was taking Zoom calls with the camera off, muting myself to hide the sound of cartoons blasting in the background. I was surviving on instant coffee and the crusts of grilled cheese sandwiches. The house was a wreck because I had to choose between cleaning, working, or parenting, and parenting always won. Meanwhile, my phone was a portal to a parallel universe. Every time I opened Instagram, there she was, my wife, sipping Aperol spritzes on the Amalfi Coast, dancing on tables in Mykonos, posting captions like "finally breathing again" and "healing my inner child." She looked radiant, she looked happy, and she looked completely unburdened by the fact that she had a husband and child back home. I commented on one photo, just once. I wrote, "Glad you're having fun, miss you." She deleted it within 10 minutes and texted me, "Don't check up on me publicly. It looks desperate. Let me have this." That sting stayed with me. But the real nightmare started on day 19. My daughter woke up in the middle of the night with a cough that sounded like a seal barking. She was hot to the touch, burning up. The thermometer read 103.4. I gave her medicine, stripped her down to her diaper, and rocked her. The fever wouldn't break. By 3 a.m., her breathing was shallow and rapid. I could see the skin between her ribs sucking in with every breath. I panicked. I packed her into the car seat, screaming my head off internally, and sped to the emergency room. We were there for hours. It was RSV, and because she was so young, her oxygen levels were dipping dangerously low. They admitted her. I sat in that plastic chair next to her hospital crib, watching the monitors beep, holding her tiny hand which was taped up with an IV line. I was exhausted, terrified, and utterly alone. Naturally, I called my wife. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I sent a text. "Baby is in the hospital. Severe RSV.
Oxygen levels low. They admitted her. Please call me. I waited. 1 hour. 2 hours. I saw she had viewed my Instagram story where I posted a black screen saying emergency, so I knew she was on her phone. Finally, 4 hours later, I got a text. It wasn't a call, it wasn't a FaceTime, it was a text. OMG, is she okay? Kids get sick all the time, don't panic. The doctors know what they're doing. I'm about to go on a vineyard tour with the girls and service is going to be spotty. Keep me posted, but please don't ruin my vibe today. This trip was expensive. I stared at the screen. I read it 3 times. Don't ruin my vibe. That was it. That was the moment the switch flipped. It wasn't a dramatic explosion. It was a cold, hard click in my brain. I realized I wasn't married to a partner. I was married to a narcissist who viewed us as accessories to her life, accessories she could put on a shelf when they became inconvenient. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot of the text. Then I took a photo of our daughter in the hospital bed, looking small and helpless with tubes in her nose. I saved both to a cloud folder I named The End. My daughter was discharged 3 days later. We went home. The house was quiet. I cleaned everything. I scrubbed the floors. I did the laundry. And then I went to work. Not my corporate job, but the job of dismantling my marriage. I contacted a lawyer, a shark named Eleanor, not her real name obviously, who came highly recommended for high-conflict custody cases. I sat in her office, eyes bloodshot, and laid it all out. I said she abandoned the marital home for a month. She drained joint assets. She refused to return during a medical emergency involving our minor child. Eleanor looked at the screenshots. She looked at the bank statements I had printed out. It was worse than I thought. My wife hadn't just spent the $5,000. She had maxed out 2 joint credit cards while in Europe. We were talking nearly $15,000 in debt in 3 weeks. Designer bags, 5-star dinners, bottle service. We have grounds for an emergency ex parte order, Eleanor said. We can file for exclusive possession of the marital residence based on abandonment and financial dissipation, and temporary sole custody based on medical neglect. If the judge signs it, she can't come back into the house when she lands. Do it, I said. The next week was a blur of legal paperwork. The judge signed the temporary order on day 29, the day before she was scheduled to return. The order granted me exclusive use of the home and temporary full custody. It meant that legally, she was not allowed to set foot on the property without police presence to retrieve belongings. I didn't stop there. I went to the hardware store and bought new deadbolts. I changed every lock on the house, front door, back door, garage side door. I even changed the code on the garage keypad. Then I installed a high-definition doorbell camera and 2
other cameras overlooking the driveway and porch. I wanted everything in 4K resolution. I packed her things. I didn't burn them. I didn't destroy them. I packed them neatly into boxes. Her clothes, her shoes, her endless collection of skincare products. I stacked them in the garage. On day 30, the day of her return, I was ready. She didn't call to ask for a ride from the airport. She assumed I would be working or sulking. She took a luxury cab. I saw the car pull up on the camera feed. I was sitting in the living room, the baby playing safely in her playpen. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. She got out of the car looking tan and refreshed. She was wearing a new outfit, likely bought with the money meant for our property taxes. She waved at the driver, grabbed her suitcases, and walked up the path like she was returning from a war she had won. She looked at the house with a sense of ownership that made my skin crawl. She walked up to the door and tried to stick her key in. It didn't fit. She frowned, pulled it out, blew on it, and tried again. She jiggled the handle. Nothing. She rang the doorbell. I didn't move. I spoke through the doorbell camera's 2-way audio. The key doesn't work because I changed the locks, I said. My voice was calm, filtered through the little speaker. She jumped, looking around for me, then stared directly into the camera lens. What? Is this a joke? Open the door. It's not funny. I'm exhausted. It's not a joke, I said. I filed for divorce. You have been served via email, and there is a process server walking up the driveway behind you right now." She whipped around. Sure enough, the guy I had hired was walking up. He handed her a thick manila envelope. "You've been served, ma'am." She slapped the envelope out of his hand. It hit the pavement. "I'm not accepting that. This is my house. You can't lock me out of my own house." She turned back to the camera, her face twisting from confusion to pure, unadulterated rage. "Open this door right now, or I swear to God I will break a window." "You no longer have legal access to this property," I said. "The judge granted an emergency order yesterday. You need to leave." "I want to see my daughter," she screamed. "You're kidnapping my child." "You didn't want to see her when she was on oxygen," I reminded her. "You had a vibe to maintain." That hit a nerve. Her face turned a blotchy red. She started kicking the door. "I will call the police. I will tell them you hit me. I will tell them you're crazy." "Go ahead," I said. "Call them." She pulled out her phone, tears instantly springing to her eyes. Fake tears, the kind she used to get out of speeding tickets. She dialed 911. I listened to her lie to the operator. "Help me! My husband is holding me hostage outside my house. He's threatening me. He has my baby and he said he's going to hurt her. Please hurry." She hung up and smirked at the camera. "You're done," she whispered. "They're going to arrest you and I'm going to take everything." I just waited. I had the recording saved. The police arrived in less than 10 minutes, 2 cruisers, lights flashing. They approached the porch with hands on their holsters. My wife immediately threw herself onto the ground, sobbing theatrically. "He's inside. He locked me out. I'm scared for my life." I opened the door slowly, hands raised and visible. I stepped out onto the porch. "Officer," I said calmly, "this is a domestic dispute regarding a divorce filing. I have a court order here." I had the paperwork taped to the door, ready to go. The lead officer, a stern-looking guy, walked up and took the papers. He read the judge's signature. He read the exclusive possession order. "Ma'am," the officer said, turning to my wife, who was currently dusting herself off, realizing the damsel in distress act wasn't landing immediately. "This order says you are barred from the residence." "She hit me," she shrieked, "before I left. He's abusive." "Officer," I cut in, "I have video footage from this doorbell camera of her threatening to make a false 911 call exactly 4 minutes ago. Would you like to see it?" The color drained from her face. It was almost comical how fast she went from red to ghostly white. I pulled up the app on my phone and played the clip. Her voice, clear as day. "I will tell them you hit me. You're done." The officer watched it. He watched it again. He looked at my wife. His demeanor shifted from cautionary to cold. "Ma'am, filing a false police report is a criminal offense. Given that we are currently standing here and you are clearly unharmed, and I just watched you conspire to frame this man, I suggest you take a walk before I decide to place you in handcuffs." "But my baby," she stammered. "The order grants the father temporary custody. You need to leave the property, now." She looked at me. There was no love, no regret in her eyes, just hatred. "You planned this," she hissed. "You manipulated everything." "I went to Europe. I just handled the reality you left behind." She had to call another Uber to take her to a motel because her parents wouldn't take her in once I sent them the video of her meltdown. She left her suitcases on the lawn. The legal battle that followed was the longest 6 months of my life. She didn't go quietly. She hired a lawyer she couldn't afford, using yet another credit card she opened in her maiden name. Her strategy was textbook entitlement. First, she tried to claim I was financially abusive because I cut off access to the joint accounts after she drained them. My lawyer, Eleanor, had a field day with that. We presented the credit card statements in court. The judge, a no-nonsense woman who looked like she'd seen it all, put on her reading glasses and went through the itemized list. "Prada, 4 Seasons, yacht rental," the judge read out loud. She looked up at my wife. "Ma'am, you spent nearly $20,000 in 30 days while your husband was at home caring for your infant, and you're claiming financial abuse because he stopped you from spending more?
I was suffering from postpartum anxiety. I needed retail therapy to cope. Therapy costs $200 an hour, not $2,000 a handbag. Then came the custody battle. My wife tried to paint me as incompetent. She claimed I was the primary caregiver and that I didn't know the basics of our daughter's routine. We got to the deposition. This is where the entitlement really backfired. My lawyer asked her simple questions under oath. What is the name of your daughter's pediatrician? My wife hesitated. Dr. Peterson? Incorrect. It's Dr. Patel. When was her last checkup? I don't know. I was in Europe. What size diapers does she wear? Size 3. She is in size 4. What is she allergic to? She doesn't have allergies. She's allergic to penicillin. It's in her medical chart. My wife was getting flustered. I'm the mother. I have a maternal bond you can't quantify with questions. The court deals in facts, not vibes, my lawyer said. I almost smiled. The final nail in the coffin was her social media. She hadn't stopped posting. Even during the divorce proceedings, she was posting stories about toxic men and rising above the hate, all while checking in at bars and clubs. We printed every single post. We juxtaposed the dates of her club nights with the dates she claimed she was too depressed to work. The climax happened at the final hearing.
Wife expected the tender years doctrine to save her. She thought that because she was the mom, she would automatically get the house and the kid. The judge delivered the ruling in a monotone voice that sounded like music to me. The court finds that the mother voluntarily abandoned the child for recreational purposes and exhibited gross negligence regarding the child's medical welfare. The mother's attempt to falsify a police report speaks to her character and credibility. My wife gasped, "No, that's not fair." Silence, the judge snapped. Sole physical and legal custody is awarded to the father. The mother is granted supervised visitation every other weekend, contingent on completing a parenting course and a psychological evaluation. And regarding the assets, the judge continued, the marital home has an equity of approximately $40,000. However, the mother has dissipated marital assets totaling nearly $25,000, plus legal fees incurred by the father due to her frivolous motions. The court awards the marital home to the father. The mother's share of the equity is considered satisfied by the debt she created. She lost the house, she lost custody, she lost the illusion. She stood up, shaking. "I'm a good mom. I just needed a break." "You took a break," the judge said, closing the file. "Now you have a permanent one. Court is adjourned." That was 8 months ago. The fallout was messy in the social circle for a bit. She tried to spin a story that I was a controlling monster who locked her out because I was insecure. But small towns talk, and videos don't lie. I showed a few key people the doorbell footage, the one where she turns the tears on and off like a light switch. The rumors stopped pretty quickly after that. She lives in a one-bedroom apartment now with 2 roommates. She works as a receptionist at a dental office, a job she hates because she has to wake up before noon. She sees our daughter every other weekend under the supervision of my sister, who volunteered, bless her. I hear she spends most of the visit trying to take selfies with our daughter to post online, but my sister shuts it down. I'm still in the house. I repainted the bedroom. I sold the furniture she picked out and bought stuff that's comfortable, not just aesthetic. My daughter is thriving. She's talking now, running around, and she doesn't cry when I leave the room because she knows I always come back. It's been a hard road. I'm tired. I'm a single dad working a full-time job, and there are days when the laundry piles up and I feel like I'm drowning. But it's a clean kind of drowning. It's honest work. I don't have to walk on eggshells. I don't have to wonder if my partner is secretly resenting me for existing. I learned the hard way that you can't build a life with someone who is only focused on their own reflection. She wanted the single girl energy. She got it. She wanted freedom from responsibility. She got it. Sometimes when I'm drinking my coffee on the porch, the same porch where she had her meltdown, I look at the new lock on the front door. It cost me $50 at the hardware store, but it bought me my peace of mind. Best investment I ever made. If you want to stick around for more stories about why you should never go to Europe on a soul-searching trip while your baby is teething, hit that subscribe button. I promise it's cheaper than a divorce lawyer.